All right, we are recording and we are live on Facebook. Welcome everybody to the Mother Tongues Multilingual Open Mic. I'm going to go ahead and start us off with a poem. Winter Island Traditions. Thanksgiving morning. The air is hot and already seasoned with garlic, achiote, and sazon coating the roasting turkey in the oven. No snow on the ground, just mofongo stuffing and arroz con gandule. The Christmas tree dressed in gold accents stands tall. Plenas play like in el Festival del Petate. Las Navidades en Puerto Rico have begun, so let us give thanks. Let us remember our traditions because tienes que preservar tú la tradición, porque si no el coquí no cantará. And like any other Boricua, I could never rest peacefully without the songs of el coquí. In December, awake the neighbors with pots and pans. Parrandas boom through sleeping streets asking for food and drinks because ya es Navidad. Serve coquito and hot chocolate. Don't forget the cinnamon. Coffee brews as pastelillos de guayaba make their way around the room. Preserve tradition. Children devour Santa's gifts as the pernil sweats away the rawness of the island life, and my grandmother croons just like the little tree frog. Night breezes are cool, not cold, as the coquís serenades los reyes on their arrival. Open presents for the little ones. Taste tembleque trembling with coconut and carol about frankincense, gold, and myrrh. Wear your best as if Melchior, Baltasar, and Gaspar were in your very home. It is January, and happy lights still brighten el callejón y los barrios. Las Navidades continue in Puerto Rico. Take me to El Viejo San Juan and surround me with rainbow vejigantes protecting Caribeño traditions en la fiesta de la calle San Sebastián. Dance with cabezudo and put artesanos on a pedestal, praising the Higuera canvases now vibrant from fresh paint. Let bomba bounce down old brick roads, always remembering el canto del coquí. Boricua, siempre acuérdate, tienes que preservar tú la tradición, porque si no el coquí no cantará. All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Tatiana Figueroa Ramirez, and if you couldn't tell, I am in the Christmas spirit. So if you didn't know, Puerto Rico is known for having like the longest Christmas ever. So we start in November and we end in late January because that's how we do it. So, so my Christmas tree was up on Thanksgiving. You know, all my shopping is done already. I'm already, getting my stuff together to make coquitos. So that's how we do it. Okay. So, but you're not here to talk about, hear about my traditions and my Christmas and whatnot. You're here to listen to some dope artists tonight. So if you don't know, you are watching the Mother Tongues Multilingual Open Mic. So I want to welcome everybody to this space. Shout out to the American Poetry Museum for holding it down for us each and every month, all the time with these spaces. So for those of you who don't know, the American Poetry Museum, we are based out of Washington, D.C., and we are really a space for community and having dialogue and bringing artists into our space, and artists meaning whatever, right? It's not just poetry, it's visual artists as well, music. If you are an artist, you are welcome into our space. If you love art, you are welcome into our space. If you just want to learn, you just want to be in community, you are welcome into our space. That's what we're about. So, if you haven't been to the American Poetry Museum, I highly encourage you to go. We actually have some pretty dope events going on right now. Always be safe though. We're still in a pandemic, so I hope everybody is being safe and that everybody's family is good. But I do want to let you know, our boy Sammy Miranda is actually at the American Poetry Museum right now in DC because there's the Festive Fridays going on at the Arts Walk in Brooklyn, DC. And he'll be there till about 8 p.m. tonight. So if for whatever reason you're not watching this at home, you're watching this, as you're like on the metro or you're driving, you're walking wherever, and you want to stop by and say what's up to Sammy, please feel free to do so. I think he's going to be there every Friday through Christmas. So you've got a couple more weeks to go, but it'll be from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. There's a lot of things that you can look at, a lot of things that you could do, a lot of cool people you can meet. So I encourage you to do so. Right now, we also have an exhibit at the American Poetry Museum by Helen Criales. It's called Ella. So it's a series of self-portraits, and I got to see some of the self-portraits, and they look so, so, so cool. I mean, I'm a fan of art and photography, so I'm a little biased, but it's definitely worth checking out. And you could stop by the American Poetry Museum tomorrow, Saturday, from 12 to 2 p.m. So, if you want to check it out, look at the artwork, meet a couple people, definitely feel free to do so. I feel like I've been talking a lot, but, I got things I need to say, right? I need to talk about the museum. I need to talk about our events. That's what you guys are here for, right? You want to learn about the museum and our artists. And, speaking of the museum, I just want to say one last thing about the museum. Shout out to everybody who donated to the American Poetry Museum on Giving Tuesday. Your support is amazing. It's because of you that we are able to continue. If you can continue to spread the word, and after today, if you feel so inclined, you can still donate. We're always accepting donations. We appreciate the support. So please feel free to do so. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the chat. Well, in the comments section, not the chat, in the comments section, which leads me to my last and final point before I bring up these artists. We are artists, y'all. We're used to being in spaces together and hearing each other and hearing the applause and hearing the responses and feeling that energy. And now we're in Zoom. We can't hear you. We can't see you smiling at us. We can't, respond to you, at least verbally, like that, right? So we don't know if you like what we're doing. We don't know if you're vibing with us right now. But what you can do is you can show some love in that comment section. Leave some comments, hit those reactions, share these videos, show the love virtually, and we will feel it. We will feel the warmth. All right? Everybody cool? All right. So I'm acting like y'all, like I can hear y'all when I say everybody cool. So I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to start bringing up these artists because that's the true meat of this open mic. And I'm so excited. So we've got a great group coming up. So first up, I'm going to bring up someone who's been here before. I think it's their second time being here. Everybody, please give it up for Bruno. You on mute, Bruno.
I'm okay now?
You good. You good to go.
All right. This first poem is about a small ode to custodial workers, those people that have to pick up after us. No one knows them or cares about them. It's called El Oficio de Juan Lavatoile. Muy simple es el trabajo, sea uno de oficina o de prestar servicio a otro. Es un gozo que se estremece al saber que tu mano ha tenido parte de la esencia del momento. Y es con tal delicadeza que Juan Lavatoile se empina a lavar las manchas de nuestras vidas y sin vergüenza establece de nuevo un santuario que nos esconde diariamente y nos ampara. Now, I've been on the diet since I've been 10 years old. I'm 65. And about 3 of them worked real good. So the last one that worked real good, I had taken over about 150 pounds, and my eating habits were so different, and I was having a craving for rice and beans. This is the poem. Rice and Beans Blues. Rice and beans. Every day we ate rice and beans. It was good, nutritious, but most of all, it was eternal. Every day, rice and beans. Rice and beans with plantains, yellow plantains, because they were sweeter than the green ones. Rice and beans with plantains, rice and beans with oxtail, rice and beans with steak. Not that good steak, but that cute steak, minute steak. It looks like the badly woven pot holder. Rice and beans and minute steak. Rice and beans and liver, dry liver. Sometimes it was just rice and beans. Rice and red beans. The big red ones. They always reminded me of cockroaches. That's another poem. Rice and beans, rice and pink beans. These are my favorite ones. Rice and garbanzo beans, rice and black beans. You see, it was always rice and beans. White rice and the beans in sauce. White rice and red beans. White rice and pink beans. White rice and garbanzos. Garbanzos are chickpeas. They taste better when you cook them together with the rice. That's called guisado, arroz guisado, stewed rice. Arroz guisado con habichuela, stewed rice and red beans, stewed rice and pink beans, stewed rice and garbanzos, stewed rice and corn. Rice and corn was a specialty because corn is always fun. Rice and corn was a treat. Rice and beans, it was always rice and beans. Rice and beans with okra. Rice and beans with tuna. Rice and beans with spaghetti. You see, rice and beans was our lifeblood. You can get 2 fists of rice and 1 of beans for $1. You ate for 2 days. Rice and beans and chicken. Rice and beans and fried chicken. My aunt Mama, rest in peace, made the best fried chicken. To this day, I only eat fried chicken at home because my wife makes it like Mama used to. Rice and beans and fried chicken. I changed my eating habits. We ate rice and beans every day. Now I eat rice and beans maybe once a month. Rice and beans. Its most famous combination is rice with green pigeon peas. You know it as arroz con gandules. I've probably bored you with my rice and beans, but they serve as a reminder of what I am, rice and beans. Sometimes, well, really most of the times, the rice would get burnt and stuck to the bottom of the kettle. That's the best part. It's called pegado. That's Spanish for like stuck. Mama always served me a plate of rice and beans and then a plate of pegado with the sauce. Everybody loved pegado. People would come to visit us around dinner time, and they knew we would at least offer them a plate of pegado with beans. Even the Irish dentist up the block from us loved pegado, but I think his reasons were shady, you know? Some Puerto Ricans made it big and didn't talk Spanish. Still, they ate pegado. It was their only link with the reality of who they were at one time. I mean, if you didn't eat pegado, you might as well eat Campbell's chicken noodle soup. And you know, back then, Puerto Ricans didn't cook from cans. Rice and beans have always been a part of me. And when I moved here from New York City, I went to a restaurant and asked for rice and beans. They served boiled grains that resembled rice and the sauce that was beans after the blender. And it looked like mud. And it wasn't rice and beans. Rice and beans. It's like a coat of arms, you know, Puerto Rico, Roberto Clemente, Rafael Hernandez, y Maya Rivera. They are all one and the same, rice and beans. I want to own a Puerto Rican flag and glue rice to the white stripes and beans to the red stripes. And then I'll be identified with my heart, with what I am, rice and beans. Thank you.
Yo, Bruno, I have so much to say to those 2 poems. So first of all, thank you for both of those poems, particularly that first one, because I think too many people forget the hard work that people in positions like, you know, whether it's being a waitress or a waiter or, you know, being a maid in a house or a housekeeper or like you said, like a janitor, you know, a lot of people don't realize how much hard work that is and how much that the work they do positively impacts their lives. But then if they go missing, that's when they realize, oh, you know, now I got to do it. Right. Yeah. So, you know, utmost respect to anybody in any profession. It doesn't matter if you're entry level or if you're salaried or whatever the case may be. Everybody deserves the same amount of respect. So thank you for that. And the rice and beans, man. Like, first of all, like I pictured my mom throughout a lot of like those references, like the white rice and the pink beans. That's my favorite too. And then
It's the
like, you know,
best.
and then her specialty is arroz, habichuela, carne guisa, y pollo frito. That's her specialty right there. And then with the rice and the corn, she loves the rice and the corn. And then, you know, the funny thing too. Okay, go ahead, Bruno. What you gonna say?
I don't like oxtail or okra. So that was a trading point with my brother and sister. I give you this, you give me the rice. You know, the best part.
Negotiating. I like that. No, but you know, the funny thing is, I thought pegado was just like a Puerto Rican thing. And then like I went to the Dominican Republic and they call it con. And then like I see Edward G, they call it raspadito.
Rapadito, yeah.
Yeah,
I have a couple of Chilean friends, yeah.
and there's like something there's a word for it too in Amharic that is like the rice at like the bottom of it. Johannes, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I like it's like in every culture that like people just love it. It's like a sacred part of their life.
Even in the Indian culture, they actually have to make it so that it sticks. When
Oh,
they make
word?
it in the little clay pots like biryanis, they do that too.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you, Bruno. Thank you very much.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here with us. We're glad to have you back with us. All right, so we're gonna keep it moving. Thank you again to Bruno for those two dope poems. And we're gonna bring up our next artist. So I'm gonna go ahead and call on Michelle. Welcome, Michelle, to the virtual stage. Oh, she looks surprised. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Okay. So for the theme of this open mic, my mother tongue is Spanglish. All of my poems are in Spanglish. This first poem I wrote when I was like 20. And there's a term I use in it called chonga, which is a Miami term for sort of like, it's like the East Coast version of a chola. So just so when you hear that word, picture that in your head, like a Caribbean chola. Okay, and this is also a villanelle. A song for JP y Quireña. Papis and chongas go together like frijoles and maduros, but they were a special recipe, this JP and Quireña, as though the orishas cut them from moonlight y fuego. Maybe it was the slope of his Roman nose, that it looked like the Cuban montañas she saw as a niña. This papi and chonga go together like frijoles and maduros. She wasn't the kind of girl he bitched about to his bros. She loved like the mar, y él era el único que podía nadar en ella. It was as though the orishas cut them from moonlight y fuego. Ese tipo loved the way she touched him beneath the mangroves, never holding back porque sabía que la vida no estaba garantizada. These two, they just go together like frijoles and maduros. She was Sweetwater Sirena, the mommy from which the water flows. He was Babalu Bad Boy, the chulo con el poder sobre la tierra. The morishas cut them from the deepest moonlight and hottest fuegos. There was something special about this mami and her chulo. They could light up the Everglades more than street lamps and estrellas. This papi and chonga go together like frijoles and maduros, as though the orishas cut them from moonlight y fuego. Okay, thank you. All right, this next poem is about my grandfather. Eliseo. Abuela Tata, clad in bata de casa and chancletas, opens the door and unlocks the gate. Clay roof tiles the width of an old man's thigh match the orange brick-like tiles leading through the front door. ¿Qué tal, mi niñita? ¿Qué tal, abuelita? I kiss her on the cheek. Papi follows in the narrow hallway towards the common area. Abuelo Eliseo sits in his carved wooden rocking chair, the wicker backing fraying. He watches a baseball game on TV, sound off with the radio tuned to the Spanish station. He doesn't notice me till I kiss his cheek. ¿Qué estudias? Abuelo asks. La poesía. Quiero ser poeta. His eyes turn from the TV. His hand turns the volume down to a low murmur. Michel, he began. Cuando era joven, después de un partido de béisbol, iba al bar y cantaba Punto Guajiro. Parecía un desastre, sudado con mi uniforme todavía encendido, pero cantaba y la gente aplaudía. Leíamos Martí y bebíamos cerveza hasta que llegaba la hora de irme a casa. Papi rolls his eyes, hiding a smile with his shrugging shoulders. ¿En serio, abuelito? I ask. He smiles as though in pain. Chinita, he says, no envejezcas. Okay. I'm going to read one more, and this one is a Thanksgiving poem, since we just had Thanksgiving. Naranja y sal, after Chef Cristina Martinez. Pinch, rub, squeeze, pour, feel, smell, lick, crack, kiss, home. The orange in my hand, the rind green and the color of Spanish roof tiles, the salt in my nose on my fingertips. We rub this bird, we open new holes with a steak knife and stuff them with garlic y naranja y sal. And we layer on the bacon and we try to remember our mother and what she taught us. And we try to remember our mother and we try to remember the recipe and we try not to cry. But we are naranja y sal, but we are bitter and she is dead. We honor the woman, the garlic, we honor the bird, we the naranja y sal, we the bitter, give thanks, we honor, and we open new holes with our words, our loves, our children, our hands. This trinity of naranja y sal y garlic, this trinity of sorrow, of motherhood, of life. Thank you.
Michelle, where were you hiding this whole time?
In Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville. You were lost far away from us. No, honestly, I love your poetry.
Thank you.
It's absolutely beautiful. First of all, so many of us like are fluent in Spanglish, so thank you for giving some love to the Spanglish language. And that ending on your second poem, girl, I feel like I always struggle with ending a poem. Like, it's like, is it really finished? Or like, you know, like, should I keep going? Should I end it earlier? And that ending, beautiful. Like your poetry is amazing. So thank you for sharing. So you mentioned that you have chapbooks. Like, where can we, you know, support you by your chapbooks? Where can we read your poetry? How can we connect with you? Tell the people, tell us.
So my first chapbook is called Cuentos from the Swamp, and it's through Finishing Line Press. My second chapbook is forthcoming through Rabbit Catastrophe Press, and it's called Memoria. And you can also find me on all social media as @ShellyFlowers, where I post links to different things that I've got going on, things I publish and all that kind of stuff.
Very dope. Well, congratulations on your forthcoming book.
Thank
and congratulations on your first book too.
Yeah, thank you.
So you already heard it. If you want to hear more and connect with Michelle more, Shelly Flowers on all social media, right? Like,
yep.
Okay.
Twitter,
Sounds
Instagram,
good.
Everything.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And I hope it won't be the first and last.
No, for sure. This is fun.
Okay. All right. All right. Sounds good. So speaking of links, I will say that I did drop the link for the American Poetry Museum in the comments section. And by the way, so far folks are loving you guys. I'm getting a lot of comments here and they're loving the vibe. So we're going to keep it moving and we're going to hop into another language and into another realm, right? So this is a dear friend of mine and I'm so happy he's here. I haven't seen him in a while because of this pandemic. But I love him so dearly and I love his poetry, even though I don't understand all of it. But I would like to welcome back to the Mother Tongues open mic, Mr. Johannes Mola.
Thank you, Tatiana. Let me just jump to the poems. The first one is about putting memorials of all the bad things happening and we are doing so that the coming ones will be having it better. Stories also should be told, otherwise as crosses a jewelry for many. ያለፈው አበሳ ከርሞ እንዳይረሳ ታሪኩ እንዳይጋይ በበደላችን ልክ እንከምር ድንጋይ ይብዛልን ጠባሳ ለየተጋፋ ነው እናኑር ንቅሳት እንጠበስ በሳት የሰው ልጅ ይረሳል በደል ቁም ስቅሉን በትንሳኤ ማግስት ለጌጥ ያደርገዋል አጥልቆ መስቀሉን. All right, the short one. Thank you. The second one is Song of Love. It goes like, come, let's paint the face of human beings with love. Come, let me live in your arms and die on your lips. When we cuddle, that's when we can see the paradise just in us. እቅፍሽ ላይ ኖሬ ከንፈርሽ ላይ ልሙት የብርሃንሽ ግርማ ጠይም ውጋገንሽ ያድናል ይራቁት የክራሩ ክሩ የሳጥን ጠፈሩ ሳሸው ድምጽ አወጣ ወገቤ ተንቃቃ ካንጀት የወጣ ድምጽ የናፍቆት ሙዚቃ ሰማያት ደረሰ የትዝታዬ ግንብ ቅጽሩ ፈረሰ ወንዙ ደፈረሰ አዋራው ቦነነ ባይተዋርነት የበስምሽ መነነ ሰማይ ተከፈተ ተዋበ ጠፈሩ መንፈስሽ ሲላወስ በደጅ በበሩ ይሸተኛል ናርዶስ ይሸተኛል ጠረን የፃን ልጅ ያንገቱ የኔ ስመሽቱ በሳቂ ሞላኛል ባንቺ መታገቱ ልትደርሺ ነውቱ ቀላች ፀሐይቱ ወረቃች ጨረቂት ባንድ ፈትለን እንዳውረው የፍቅርን ልቃቂት ጧት ማታ ክረምት በጋ እሳት ማለ አይፈራ ያፈቀረ ሸጋ ሲንቆራጠጥ ያድራል እንደጠጣ ኮሶ እንዳዲስ አፍቅሮ በወድሽ ተላውሶ ሸጋነሽ ሸጋ መለመዳብ እንዴት ለመዝንሽ ከማንም አመዳም ከወዝሽ ውጭበት እስኪውዛ መንደሩ እንቅፋት አይድፋው ያመዳት ክምሩ የልቤን ቁም ነገር ሳር ቅጠላት ይስሙት አዋፍ ያዚሙት ነፍሳት ይሳለሙት ይነስነስ ላለሙ ፍቅር እንዲቀባ የሰው ልጅ ቀለሙ ምጭልኝ ዓለሜ ቅፌ ላይ ኑሪ ከንፈሬ ላይ ሙቺ ተቃቅፈን እንስደቅ በየደረታችን ካለም ወስደን ፍቺ. All right, one more. This is about paradise and hell, how that people can demarcate paradise and hell just by their own lips, so everybody can do it. Everybody can demarcate paradise and hell by their lips. When you kiss, when you are into good discourse, good conversation, good poems, that's the paradise. On the other hand, when you talk at the back of a friend, or when you are silent, when your voice is really needed, that's a full paradise, the hell. A short one, longer description than the poem. ሐሜትና ስሜት የጽድቅ የኩነኔ የደጃቸው አፈር ዳሩ ያንቺ ከንፈር ገነቱ ስትስሚኝ ሲኦሉ ስታሚኝ ጽድቁ ሳቅ ጨዋታሽ ኩነኔው ዝምታሽ. All right, and one more, a short one, just love, Song of Love, a shorter one. አደራ ስጋዬ ሲበላ ፈቀድኩ አባያቸው ደሜንም ሲጠጡት ይሁን አጣጫቸው አጥንቴም ሲሰበር ከቻልሽ አሳብሪያቸው ልቤ ሲጠጉ ግን ውስጥ አንቻለሽና ሰው አለ በያቸው. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johannes. You know, one thing that I really love about Amharic poetry, so for those of you who don't know, Johannes is from Ethiopia, and that was Amharic that he was speaking. And one thing that I really love about Amharic poetry is like the rhythm. You kind of fall into it, and it's just so enchanting, right? And that's why I love it. Like even though I pick and choose a couple of words, like I knew fakad and you know things like that, but you know, like I don't understand everything, but I still appreciate it so much, and I love listening to it. And you know, from judging from the comments, people love listening to it as well. So thank you, Johannes.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thanks for having me, for you and the American Poetry Museum.
Of course, you know you're always welcome. And before you put yourself on mute, where can people find you? What projects have you been working on? What are you doing?
People can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Johannes Molla, YOHANESMOLLA. I've been in many projects, community works, and being a board member and co-founder of Ethiopian Art Society in North America. and doing some voluntary works for the community, giving back, working on my third book. It's not a poem though. And dealing with the pandemic, having a good time, trying to have a good time, and ready for Christmas and New Year.
Good. Well, I'm excited for that third book, and I know being a board member is keeping you busy. So, but thank you for all that you do. I know you're always putting on for your community, Johannes, and thank you for being here with us today, sharing your poetry with us.
Thanks, Tati.
Of course. So we're going to keep it moving, and we're going to experience another language, right? That's what I love about the multilingual open mic. It's so many languages, so many different backgrounds. I love it. DC itself is so diverse. At the school that I work at, we actually have over 40 languages represented between all of our students. And for the most common language spoken is Spanish, second is Amharic. And this next artist is actually one of my students. That's how I met her. And she's very talented. I was actually doing a poetry workshop with her class, and she read her poetry. She was one of the last ones to read it. She was in the back of the room, and she's like, I'll read it. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then come to find out, she's like a full-fledged artist. So she's amazing. So she already knows I'm talking about her. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome to the virtual stage, my dear Ana.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. You are so kind. You are amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, let's start. My language is Portuguese. I'm from Brazil, and usually I write in Portuguese because I have been learning English, but it's hard for me to translate sometimes. So I keep writing in Portuguese. My first poetry, I wrote that about after knowing the term colorism and starting to notice how one of my best friends, who is Black and dark-skinned, was treated. She received a different treatment than the treatment that I received because I'm Black, but I have a light skin. And when people didn't treat her with discrimination, they treat her with a kind of a victimism. And actually, she just wants to be respected as a human being, to be recognized as a Black, strong woman, and valued for all her professional and personal achievements that have been a lot. Guarde seu coitadismo. Vigie suas palavras. Mulher preta não precisa de pena. Mulher preta precisa ser respeitada. Respeita a nossa trajetória, não finja ativismo. Quer reparar a nossa história? Comece nos ouvindo. Quanto mais escura a pele, mais resistência e força representa. Minha amiga preta não precisa da sua piedade. Ela precisa de respeito e mais consciência. Você pode começar levantando a bunda do sofá, relendo o que vai postar e passando a nos respeitar. Minha amiga preta é muito rainha. Paciente, elegante, mas também perde a linha. Na sua simplicidade tem voz e posicionamento. Ela sabe como reinar com o seu empoderamento. My second poetry is a reflection on the different scenarios during this pandemic and in a place where social inequality is striking, Brazil. And it's just a reflection about what kind of privilege you have if you are working from home or if you have to go outside. And if you have a job and if you have food on the table, if you have elderly people living with you in the same house, if you are really safe, if you can feed yourself and your family, the name is Contrastes Sociais em Tempos de Pandemia. Bocado de gente se adoentou. A vizinhança tá quieta, o povo espia pelas frestas. Parece filme de terror. Na casa de praia tem elite, suíte, meditação, dieta fit. Esse contraste é tão horrendo que me tira o apetite. Júlia chora, Pedro implora, Ana grita. É fome. Você conhece a fome? Enquanto isso lá fora, outro provém nossa comida. Salvam vidas e tenta pagar as dívidas. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for both of those poems. You know, the first poem about colorism, I think it's such an important topic. And, you know, over the summer, there was a big push with Black Lives Matters, and there was a lot of emphasis now placed on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and racism, and all of these things. But this is something that has been going on forever. Yeah. Right. And for those of us who, you know, live in the Black body, or are living as a person of color, or live in that experience, you know, it's always been there. Mm-hmm. And it's always been an experience. And it's just, you know, for example, you said that you wrote this poem after you learned what the word colorism is. And, you know, that's part of the problem, right? A lot of us don't have the language to really express what is happening and to name what is happening. Mm-hmm. And now we're developing that language. We're learning that language. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad you were able to find that word, and you know, and to be able to express yourself in that way. And Anna, I see you all the time. You're a very outspoken advocate for equity and diversity and inclusion, and I love you for it, and I want you to continue to do that.
Thank you so much.
And also with the pandemic, I just want to say again, I hope everybody is being safe. I hope everybody is healthy. I hope their loved ones are okay. You know, it is a difficult time. It's a very, I know the overused word, uncertain time, but you know, it is what it is right now. We have to do our part to make sure that we're all safe, that we're all healthy, so that we can get out of this and hopefully grow from this and progress from this. But please make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Please make sure you're finding joy, you know, that you're doing what you can to be yourself in these moments in a safe and healthy way. So thank you, Anna. Before you go back on mute, you know, tell us what you're working on. Where can we find you? You know, what have you been up to?
Well, you can find me on Instagram and Anna Souza Singer. And we have lots of plans for the next year, because this year's almost over. Thank God. What a year. What a year. And yes, we have lots of projects with Brazilian music and poetry as well. You can find me on YouTube, Anna Souza. You're going to find poetry, you're going to find music. And yeah, that's it. Please follow me, subscribe, like, everything. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. Sure. We hope to see you back at another Mother Tongues or another one of our events. So
I'll be back for sure. Thank you.
We will gladly have you back. All right, everybody, we are down to our last artist of the night. And, you know, I mean, homeboy here, he featured at the American Poetry Museum, and that was a dope feature. If you haven't seen it, go back to the American Poetry Museum and look at the video. And then, you know, he's been at the Mother Tongues open mic a few times, and I'm always like, yo, why are you so dope? So some of you may know him. And if this is your first time knowing Edward, don't let his like cool like intro of just like, hey everybody, my name's Edward, fool you. No, like he's coming with fire, okay? So please give it up for Edward G.
Let's hope I live up to it. All right, I'm gonna project my text. All right, I'm gonna present 3 poems tonight, and the first one is kind of about the artistic intent to some extent. También buscando esa melodía. En vez de una foto del momento, lo tipeo en mi pantalla para comentarlo. Una obsesión con cierto tipo de impresión. En vez de bosquejo que algunos hacen, donde la luz se refleja y rebota, y el lápiz dibuja esa historia de cambio, de ser una infinidad instantánea, un bulto aún sin enmarcar o digitalizar, de algún modo deteniéndolo, repitiendo su eco con permiso del papel. En vez, yo coloco ese flujo de luz en cartuchos, en pequeños paquetes que vacío en este alfabeto y las letras se someten y desecan, al servicio de palabras con mensajes en sus lomos. En vez de los tonos y los temas bailando, solo bailando, en un aire nunca quieto, lo modulo en mudo, lo digo, lo leo, también buscando esa melodía. Instead of the tones and the tunes, dancing, just dancing, in an air that's never calm, I mouth it, voice it, read it, also looking for that melody. All right, so yeah, I mean, I'm always saying I'm jealous of musicians and painters and stuff like that and photographers. My wife is a shoemaker, so I get to watch her do her thing, which is interesting. The second poem is called Ruins Number 4, and I try to do a small series of kind of going back in time and reimagining kind of these things that are part of our lives. They might be very mundane things, so I thought, what would the ruins of thoughts look like, right? If I poetize it a bit. Okay, so Ruins Number 4, thoughts. It's the ice cream that melts and sloughs off, falling to the ground unrecoverable, the steam that levitates above your skull, seeking more ample plains, escaping the restraint of all that brain tissue and machinery. Some have that silky beauty of strings accompanying a dance, and I can only recover fragments of their choreography and their texture. Creamy and smooth, yet agile and nervous, sugary zigs of ideas in motion. We fear the stillness of graveyards, deceased notions, devoid of their grace, confined at rest, unable to amble in orbit, unable to scuttle about. Corpses like pens with no ink, unable to doodle and scribble, to gush out in improvised strokes. Thoughts, my thoughts, they only belong to the flash they inhabit, and it's like in the lightning that I see them, like long ago lovers living their separate lives. To think is to sketch on a delicate napkin, knowing the paper won't hold up for long, hoping the silhouette suffices, and it's foolish to covet the paper, to worry about the state of those sheets. I care only for the course of my wrist. Can I retrace similar lines? Can my mind travel through coincident routes? And again, I step into the still frame of that dancing string and roam its winding loops, some a deep red like a carpet bound for somewhere, some opaque, blotted out, as irretrievable as drops of ice cream sloshed on the floor. I slide hastily through the silk, generating all that static, waiting for the spark that surges outwardly, never to return, but willing to provide a fleeting light on ideas yet to dance. All right. And my last poem is kind of a music thing. I try to, again, I'm jealous of musicians, so I try to embody the essence of the instrument without just talking about it. Okay, bass. Into the crust is where you bore, below the shore, into the deep, on the corners where you solo, bulbs blown out from your deep waves, in the nose that come in threes, beneath the viscous melodies. In a tone that pitches low, you bob and weave down to the floor, and with your palms vibrate the boards. You stir your spoon and sow the boom through the gallop of the song. In its hooves and in its stomp, in the muscles in your thighs, in the ass and in its bounce, in the scale and in the weight, in the funk and in its pounds, in the pounds that you possess, in the pounding and the push. You get deep into the tissue, into the blood, into the bones. You get low, low, low. You get so low, below the bowls, below their glow, below my feet, below the wood, below the rocks, below belows, below the roots that feed your groove, below the words, down through your throat, into your gut and through your hips. You lace the viscous melodies, you lace the viscous melodies, you lace the viscous melodies. Thank you.
Edward. First off, I don't you need to stop saying that you're jealous of musicians because your poetry has so much musicality in it. You're like a musician poet. Really. You truly are like, you know, I feel at least musicality is something that you can I would like to say that you can't teach it, but I think you can teach it, just like it's really, really hard to teach. And you just have it so naturally. in your poetry. And I stop it. Just be you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, you know, it's kind of the driving force, right? So I'm always like, all right, I'm reading about Bob Dylan hanging out with Allen Ginsberg, and it was like there was always this crossover, right? Like he wanted to be a
Yeah.
poet, and Ginsberg wanted to be a musician. They were always kind of going back and forth. So I like to hang out with musicians and read, you know, listen. I listen to music more than read poetry, actually, to
Well,
just
please
kind of
keep
get
doing
that
it
rhythm.
because your poetry is very dope. Bruno, you're on mute.
I think a lot of times there's a symbiotic relationship between poetry and music.
Mm.
When they're joined, it becomes song.
Mm.
When they're not joined, you got two different statements. You know, like I felt the bass.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
did.
me
thank
too.
you, thank
For
you.
anybody who has been to the American Poetry Museum in person, and we've had different events where we have poets with music, and my mind automatically went to Pepe. Pepe plays bass, and I saw Pepe playing, like, when he plays, he does like people who know Pepe know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But I just saw Pepe playing, and it was like Edward and Pepe were on stage together. Pepe's playing, Edward saying his words, and I loved it. And shout out to Pepe, by the way. I haven't seen him in a minute, but I love him so much. So thank you as always, Edward. Edward, please
Thank you for the
plug
space. Always.
yourself. I mean, I already know where to find you, but
Yeah.
and what are you up to?
My individual handle is Edward J Gons. At that's my Instagram, and then I also run an anthology. I'm doing an anthology on bilingual poetry, or poetry in English and Spanish from my faculty down here in Chile, in La Universidad Católica. So you can find us there at Antología Poética UC, and I run a biweekly kind of like open mic / taller. So anybody can come in if you want to read your stuff or you want to just like hang out and listen, and it runs for about an hour and a half every 2 weeks. So, and again, as always, I'm really appreciative of the invitation from you guys. It's a pleasure being here and listening to all the other readers and kind of getting in this flow. And I like, we always find connections, right? Like Michelle made a connection with Bruno about the beans, right? So that's fun.
Yeah,
I like how these things emerge.
it's beautiful the way that happens. First of all, Edward, you're always welcome here. You're family now. But second of all, like, that's so true. Like, we were talking about this a little bit before about how poetry just transcends the language, and it just transcends, the structure, right? None of you guys knew what you guys were going to read, and yet still it just flowed together. And that's really the beauty of poetry and art in general, right? It just speaks to each other, and there's just so much conversation happening so naturally. And thank you to you all for sharing your work, because Sammy and I can organize this all we want, but if people don't show up to read, it's just gonna be me and Sammy staring at each other like, okay, so what you want to do now? So I really appreciate you all as individuals, and then you all coming together as a group. I really do appreciate it. And I will say to my folks watching through Facebook, I went ahead and dropped everybody's Instagram links. And so, if you want to go ahead and connect with folks, follow them now, share their work, buy their work, support these artists, okay? They're sharing their work, they're putting themselves out there, so show them a little bit of love. So that's it. We got to the end of our artists. That's all we have for the open mic. I do want to remind folks that Sammy's actually at the American Poetry Museum right now. He'll be there every Friday through Christmas for the festive Fridays at the Art Walk. So please, stop by the museum 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Fridays. We also are having an exhibit right now called Ella. So, it's a series of self-portraits by Helen Criales. So please, please, please go ahead and check that out. There, you could actually stop by the museum tomorrow afternoon. There's also, I think there also are going to be some Facebook events, some online events. So make sure you like the American Poetry Museum Facebook page so you could keep up to date with, what's going on at the museum, and then also what's going on virtually, because that's where we post Mother Tongues. That's where we post our Sunday readings. So keep up with us, okay? So I just want to say, before I let everybody leave, I know it's Friday. I know it's been a week. I know everybody wants to, just put on their pajamas. Shout out to you, Johannes. I just want to say thank you to the American Poetry Museum and Sammy for allowing us to have this space, holding this space down for us, and, you know, really letting us just go with it, right? I want to say thank you to all of our artists who were here tonight, you know, who shared their work. I appreciate all of your words and all of your feelings and all of your energy. I really appreciate it. It was a dope night as usual. I'm not surprised. And thank you to everybody watching on Facebook. I see Joel in there. I see Anthony in there. I see my mom up in there. So, you know, lots of people over here showing their love. Thank you to all of you. You know, you are the community that allows the American Poetry Museum to be. We really wouldn't be without the community around us. So thank you to all of you. Everybody stay safe and take care.